Please let me know if you can see my screen. People.
Yes.
Okay. Fine. So yeah, this the thing which you're seeing right now in the screen is how the workflow in most of the BI tools, especially Power BI, happens. So first of all, what we do is we connect to the data source. I mean, the data which is coming from the backend. Then within Power BI, if needed, we can transform the data within Power BI to bring it in the form that we require it to be. Then we model the data within Power BI. And when I say modeling, what I mean is multi-dimensional modeling if we need it. I mean the tables in terms of facts and dimensions separately. Then after that, we usually do the calculated columns and measures as well. Both of them, that is, both calculated columns and measures are the calculated fields. Okay. And once these are done, we indulge in creating the visuals and the whole report basically. And once this is done, this will be subjected to the QA analysis from the testing team. And once it is approved by them, we will be ultimately publishing and sharing this with the ultimate business team. Okay, so this is how the workflow usually happens in the BI related operations. Okay, so let's start with the very first part, that is connecting to various data sources while we are working in Power BI desktop. Okay, so for that, what I'll do is I have, yes, yes, you want to ask something?
No, someone just joined and got disconnected.
Okay, that's fine. So yeah, I have opened a new instance of Power BI. I mean, the simple way to do it is just go to the Start tab, and you can search for Power BI, which will be installed here, and you can just double click on it. Power BI Desktop will open, and you'll be, yeah, you'll be having this window. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll try to connect to different types of data sources. We'll try to connect with an Excel sheet, we'll try to connect with a CSV flat file, and most importantly, we'll try to connect with the database system, and we'll understand how to bring the data into Power BI. Okay, so first thing first, whenever you want to bring the data into Power BI, you need to go to this particular icon that says get data. Okay, and here you need to click on the option that you want to bring the data from here. So first what I'll do is I'll try to bring the data from text or CSV type of file, basically comma separated value file. Okay, so I'll select this, and then I'll just uh, go to the folder where I have stored the data. Okay, and I'll select uh, this one, and then I'll just need to click on open. And now you see a new window will appear wherein you will be having the preview of the table that you're trying to bring it in. And also below that, you will be mainly having two options. One is to load this data directly into Power BI Desktop, or if you think this data needs a bit of cleaning, then you can just click on transform data, which will take you to Power Query Editor. Now, just by the look of it, what do you think needs to be done to this table? Do you think this table of this file basically, is it having uniform data, or do you think it needs a bit of cleaning and uh, transformations? Yes. Yeah.
The space between, so I
Yeah.
mean, we
If
might
you
need
basically,
transformation.
correct. If you basically look at it, see the column headers are on this row, and there are so many blanks, and values also are kind of all over the place. Okay, so this definitely needs the cleaning or transformation. So we would like to click on transform data. Okay, and it will open the Power Query editor where we can do the ETL within Power BI itself. We can extract, transform, and load the data. Okay. But however, if you think that, I mean, I'm just closing it right now because we'll do the ETL later. Presently, we are just trying to concentrate on bringing the data from different sources. Okay. So let's say I'll just discard this. I'll just delete this and show you one more thing. Delete from model. Now let's say the same table, if you want to bring it directly into Power BI desktop. So again, you need to click on this and then open. And while we are in this window, you just need to click on load so that without opening Power Query Editor, it gets loaded directly into the Power BI desktop. Okay, so this is how you get the flat or CSV file. Okay, now let's say if you want to bring an Excel file, the procedure is quite similar. I'll just click on this, get data, excuse me, and Excel workbook. And then you need to select the Excel file that you have stored in the location. I'll just click on this and then click on open. And there afterwards, you'll be taken to this kind of preview where you can open the individual sheet within the Excel workbook. And you need to select that. And after that, you'll be having an option to again load or transform the data. Now, if you select transform data, again, you'll be taken to Power Query Editor. However, if you load it, it'll be loaded directly into Power BI Desktop, just like this. So now you see, you're seeing two tables. One is the stores table. The first one is the orders table. Okay. Orders table came as a CSV file. So stores table came from an Excel sheet or Excel workbook. Okay. So this is how we can get the data from flat files or Excel workbooks. But the most important thing to be understood or to be learned is to get the data from a particular database, because most of the times in any live projects which will be going on in the industries, what they usually do is they use um, an RDBMS in the backend in most of the cases. 90% of the time, you'll be bringing the data or you will be asked to bring the data from a database management system. Now, that database management system can be a certain data lake like Azure Synapse Data Lake, or it can be something like SQL Server itself, or maybe Postgre, or maybe Oracle DB, or something else. But it's almost, I mean, 90% sure that it'll be coming from one or other database management system. So basically, you need to understand how to bring the data from a database. Okay. So what I've done here is I have opened the SQL server on my end. Okay. And this has certain databases. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the data from the AdventureWorks 2012 and 2022 database, which I have in my SQL server. And I'll bring the data from SQL server into Power BI desktop. And let's see how that can be done. Okay. So the first thing first, what are the two things that you need is your server name and the database name. Okay. So I have stored server name in, I think, OneNote. Let me open that. Yeah. Yeah, this is my server name. Okay. So I'll just copy it so that I can paste it while mentioning the server name. Okay. So now what I'll do, I'll just click on again get data, and this time I'll select SQL Server. Now remember that if you don't find the option that you are looking for in this particular list, then what you can do is you can click on more. Now you see there are more than 100 different data sources that you can connect to directly here. So here you can type the thing that you are looking for. So I'll just type SQL Server database. That is this one. Okay. So I'll click on this and I'll click on connect. Again, a window will appear. Now, the first thing that you need to mention here is the server name. I'll just copy and paste the server name, which I just uh, have here, and the database name. First, I'll mention the Adventure Works 2012 database. Okay. And yeah, here in data connectivity mode, you can see two options. One is import mode and one is direct mode. And these are basically the different storage modes, which we will discuss in detail. Don't you worry about it right away. Okay. So currently I'm just using the import mode. I'll click on OK. Now you see what will happen is, yeah, you will be taken to a window where it shows you the number of tables which are present in the database that you just mentioned. Now here the database which I just mentioned was AdventureWorks 2012, which is coming from my SQL server. And these are the tables which are inside that particular database. Now what I'll do is I'll just select one particular table to be brought uh, in here. So what I'll do is I'll get sales order detail table. Where is it? This is one. I'll just select this and then I'll just load it directly. Okay. So if I do that, you see we have that table now, sales.sales order detail table, and it is coming from the SQL server. Now, one thing to be noted here is that your SQL server should be in the running condition. Not be able to from SQL server. Is this clear, people? Any doubts till
Yes,
now?
Pranay. No, so running condition, what does it mean? So the query need to be perfect without any error. That what it means?
What I mean is your SQL server should always be on.
Oh, okay, got it, got it.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, one more thing. If let's say server is facing some kind of a problem, it is down, then again you will not be able to bring the data into Power BI. Okay. So the backend must be on in order to bring the data from SQL Server. So yeah, that's the thing I was trying to mention. Okay.
Understood.
Now, one more important thing here. Let's say if you want to bring the data from some other database systems, the procedure is almost same. Let's say if I select something like uh, MySQL Server, okay, MySQL, yeah, my database, and if I want to connect, it says it needs a connector, but again, if you install that connector, basically, I'll show you. The procedure will be same. What I mean is it'll ask you just to enter the server name and the database name. Okay. So let's say I'll select maybe Oracle DB. Again, it'll ask this, but yeah, now you see it'll ask the server name here for Oracle DB. Okay. So once you enter this, then again it'll ask you the database name. Okay. And within that you can select the table by yourself. Okay. So the way in which we connect the data with the database is almost similar. Okay. And same is the case if you want to connect to some data lake systems which are predominantly used right now, like Azure Synapse Lake, ADF, or uh, similar things like that. Okay. Now, one more thing to be noted. Let's say if you want to bring only the filtered data into this, okay, you can write the queries even while bringing the data from these database systems. Let me show you what I mean. Now here, let's say, mm, let me just show you this file first. Okay, so this is AdventureWorks 2012, and in these tables, what I was looking for is sales order detail. Yeah, this one. Let me execute this. We select top 1,000 rows. Hmm. Now here, if you see, uh, we have a column here called as order quantity, which I think is visible. Now, let's say if the requirement is that we need a record, or we need the records only when the order quantity is greater than or equal to 5. Okay, we need only the orders with whose order quantity is greater than equal to 5. Now, what we usually do if we are working in SQL, we write a simple filtering statement, that is the where statement, right? Where order QTY greater than or equal to 5, right? Now, the similar thing we can do while bringing the data into PBI as well. Let me show you how that can be done. I'll go to get data again, SQL Server, and then server name, and then database name, 2012. Okay. And then before just clicking on OK, there's an advanced options here where you can write the SQL queries. Okay. So what I'll do here, select star from the table name is sales order detail, sales dot sales order detail, where the column name, let me just confirm it. It is order QTY greater than or equal to 5. Okay. Now, if I write this and then click on OK, now you see I'll be having this data. And if I just click on loading this data, okay, this data has come in the form of query. So that's why it is mentioned, its title is mentioned as a query. But the thing to be noted here is that if you look at all the records in this table, which we have got, okay, the order quantity is always greater than or equal to 5. Okay. Now, this is just a simple query I've written here, but you can write even more complex queries as well, where you can use the joins or even many other conditional statements, aggregate statements. You can do it. Okay. So basically, what I'm saying is you can write the queries and bring the filtered data into Power BI Desktop. Okay. Any doubt on this, people, from anyone?
No problem. But a doubt is in data we need it's showing as optional, right? Once you're given the server name, you
Mhm.
just mention adventure, but it's showing optional. It is mandatory that we need to mention the file name.
I mean, if you don't do it again in inside the window, you need to again go and select the database and then the file name. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Got it.
so yeah. So that's the thing. Okay. So this is how you
So
bring the
I
data
don't
into.
have data right now. So are you going to provide the dump data, or how do
Yeah.
we track?
Yes. The thing is, as we start doing the ETL, I'll be starting using this Excel sheet and CSV data so that I can share that with you. Okay. However, if you would like to practice bringing the data from SQL Server from your end, then you need to do two things. One is, first you need to install SQL Server in your system, okay, and then you need to download a particular database as well, and that you need to basically install or import within SQL Server, which is installed in your system. Then only you can bring the data from SQL Server, else you cannot. Okay. However, what I'll do is I'll provide you with the data which we are bringing from the CSV flat files and Excel files, so that while we are doing the ETL, you'll be having all the files that you need uh, to do the transformations. Hope that is clear.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So this is how we bring the data from different sources into Power BI. Now, yeah. Also, let me mention few more things. You can bring the data from the website as well, just by, I mean, if the website is open source. So what you can do is you can just click on web here, and you can put the URL, and if the website is open source, then you can bring the data or tables from there as well. And also, if you have the data stored in SharePoint folders, which is used as, I mean, cloud storage in some of the recent cases, so you can use that as well, and you can bring the data directly from the SharePoint folder. So let me just find here SharePoint folder. So you can click on connect, and all you need to do is mention the URL of that SharePoint folder, and that's it. You can get the file from SharePoint folders as well. Okay. So yeah, these are the different ways in which we can bring the data into Power BI desktop. Okay, or basically different sources. Okay. So let's try to understand the storage modes in Power BI desktop. Storage mode in the sense, if you remember, when we got the data from SQL Server, it was asking us whether we want to bring it in import mode or direct query mode. Okay, let's try to understand what these things are. What is import mode and what is direct query mode? Okay, now let me just and okay. First, what I'll do is I'll just delete the unnecessary tables here, and then I'll try to explain you what are import modes, direct query mode, and there are two other modes. Let me show that to you as well. Okay, I just have two things now. One is um, sales order detail. Just a second. Yeah. So basically, we have these kinds of storage modes in Power BI. One is called import mode, then there is direct query mode, and then there is live connection, and then there is hybrid mode or composite mode, or it's also called as dual mode. Okay, let's try to understand the first thing, that is import mode. What is import mode? Let's understand that. Okay, now when you are in import mode, okay, it means the data which you are accessing from the backend, you are actually bringing it into Power BI desktop, and it is being stored in the Power BI desktop itself. And while it stores the data into Power BI desktop, it uses an engine called as Vertipack compressor engine. And what this does, this basically compresses the data to certain extent. But it is thing to be noted that when I say compressed, I mean, there won't be data loss. Okay, the data will be as it is. The memory used to store that data will be a bit compressed. That's it. Okay, and look, now let's say I have brought, if you remember this sales order detail, I have brought this from SQL Server from the backend, okay, and I've brought this into Power BI in import mode. Okay. Now what it means, this table which you are seeing right now, it is in the Power BI desktop. Okay. It is in the stored in the Power BI desktop itself. Okay. But let's say if you want to refresh it, then what you do, you just click on home tab. Okay. Click on refresh button. Okay. If you do that, then what will happen? These two tables, okay, sales order detail and sales transaction cost, which is, I think, a Excel file. These two things will be loaded again from the backend, and again they are stored in Power BI desktop. Okay, so this is what import mode means, meaning the data actually comes into Power BI desktop. Okay, now let me show you one more mode. Okay, so let's talk about one more mode, that is direct query mode. Get data SQL Server. Then here, I'll just mention the server name and the database Adventure Works 2012. And instead of import mode, I'll use the direct query mode. Okay. And now if I click on OK, let's say again, I'll get sales start, sales order detail. And click on load. It's okay. Now, here, the sales order detail table, okay, that is this one. So this one, if you see, you cannot see its preview. The thing is, the reason for that is this table is not brought in import mode. It is brought in, if you remember, direct query mode. Now, what is the meaning of direct query? It means that you are just establishing the connection between Power BI and the backend. Now the backend in this case is what? SQL Server. So here what happens is the data is still in SQL Server. However, you have just created the connection between Power BI and the backend. Okay. So let me show you how it works. And it also, from that also you can create the visuals. However, the important thing to be understood is whenever it's a direct query, the data actually lies in the backend itself. You just have the connection to that data from Power BI desktop. That's it. Okay. But you cannot see the preview of that data if it is coming from direct query mode, just like you can see the preview in import mode. You see here, the data here is in import mode, but here it is in direct query mode. Okay. And since the data in direct query mode, it stays in the backend itself, it means that there won't be any extra memory consumed in Power BI desktop to store it. Is that clear, people? Is the difference between direct query and import mode clear to everyone or not?
Yes.
Okay. And one more thing. When you're working in the import mode, and let's say you brought this data in import mode today, okay, but tomorrow again you want to refresh it, okay, you just need to click on the refresh button. You need to manually refresh it, okay. Only then you will get the fresh data. And when I say fresh data, what I mean is, let's say if there are any extra rows being added in the backend, those will not appear here if you are working in the import mode until and unless you refresh the data. However, if you are working in the direct query mode, you need not refresh this table. If in the backend there are any extra records or any new rows or any new data, it will directly appear here. Although you are not able to see the preview, but you can access that data once you start doing the visualizations. That will definitely appear. Is the difference clear, people?
Yes.
Hmm. Now, one more important thing. Now, the thing is, you might wonder why there are two different, or basically, actually, there are three or four, but mainly there are two itself: import mode and direct query mode. Why they have kept two separate ways of storage modes in Power BI. So what Microsoft they suggest is, if the data which you are trying to bring it into Power BI is of huge amount, if you're talking it in, I mean, if you're talking in terms of uh, billions of records, millions or billions of records, what Microsoft they do is they suggest you to use direct query mode, so that your front end, that is Power BI, it doesn't handle huge data. The data stays in the backend itself, and whenever you create any visualizations, you can access the data from backend directly by just bringing the data here. Okay, I mean the data stays in the SQL server itself. Okay, but practicality, I'll tell you, if you use direct query mode, there are certain disadvantages as well. There is an advantage which Microsoft states, that the huge data load can be handled quite easily by keeping the data in the backend itself and just creating the connection by using the direct query. But the problem with that is, first problem is, in Power BI, you cannot see the table for yourself. That is one thing. Then there is one more important thing, and this is very important: you cannot make use of 100% functionality of DAX. Now, what is DAX? DAX stands for data analysis expressions. That is the language, the front end language which we use in Power BI to create calculated columns and measures. Okay. And if you are in direct query mode, you cannot make use of certain functions in DAX. Okay. So that is a big blow, because most of the times your front end, the business end wants it to be very customized, and for it to be customized, you have to make use of DAX itself. Without that, there's no other way to make it as customized as the business end needs it. Okay, so that is one disadvantage. Okay, and there's one more thing. Let's say you have the data in Power BI itself, like we have it in import mode. Now, whatever is happening in the backend, that is SQL Server, we are not concerned, because once the data is in Power BI desktop, until and unless you want to refresh the data, there's no need to worry, because this data, what you're seeing here, is in Power BI itself, and you can create the visualizations based on this, and you can create the reports. Okay. However, if you are working on some table and that table has been brought in via direct query mode, and in that case, let's say while you're working on this table, and at that exact moment of time, let's say SQL Server is down for some time, then it means that you cannot make any visualizations from this table which is making use of direct query mode. Because if you remember, in direct query mode, the data stays in the backend itself, and there is just a connection with the backend to Power BI. Okay. And hence, if the backend is not working well, if your SQL Server is down, then you cannot do any visualizations if you're working in direct query mode. Is that difference clear, people? Yes or no?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So that is one more difference. And there is one more thing. Recently, what Microsoft have done is, there are actually different licensing options. One is called Power BI Free, which is a free license. In free license, you can just work on Power BI Desktop. but you cannot do much things in Power BI service. However, there are certain paid licenses like Power BI Pro, and then there is Power BI Premium per user, and then there is Power BI Premium per capacity. Okay. Now, when you purchase or when you subscribe to Power BI Premium or Power BI Premium per capacity or Premium per user, what Microsoft does is they give you the option to, they give, there's a possibility to bring huge data even in the import mode. You can make your Power BI desktop file as big as 10 GB or even more. Okay. So that's not a problem right now. And when, let's say, you are bringing the data of up to 10 GB into Power BI desktop, it means you're bringing hundreds of millions of records. Okay. So if your system has at least 32 GB of RAM, there's no problem of for you to work on such a big data set, even if you are using import mode. Okay. So mostly what I've found in my experience is that people, they don't go for direct query mode. Most of the time, more than 90 to 95% of the time, people work on import mode itself. Okay, people work on import mode itself. Okay, now apart from that, you have the live connection and the dual mode. Now what is meant by that? Okay, now here you see live connection is completely similar to direct query mode, apart from the fact that in live connection the data will be coming in the form of cubes. Now have you heard about the cube form of data, people?
Nope.
Yeah. Now uh, I think you guys might have heard about the term Azure Databricks. Yes or no? I'll just
Nope.
try to give you a gist of how it looks like, the cube form of data. Okay. um, Show you how it looks like. Yeah, it basically looks like the advanced version of the tables. Okay, now let me try to explain what we have here. Now this is a particular cube form of system, which is an example for OLAP system, which is online analytics processing system. Now here, if you see, here we have three axes. One is the measures axis, one is measures axis, which is basically the x-axis. Another is the types of products axis. Can you see this? This is the y-axis, where we have the types of products, accessories, bikes, clothing, components. Okay, this is y-axis. And thirdly, we have this z-axis, where we have the timeline being mentioned. Can you see this? Okay. Now, let's say these these things which we are seeing in the x-axis, let's say one of this says the sales. One of this cubes, one of the components shows sales. Let's say this particular component shows maybe order quantity. This one shows, let's say, return quantity. Now let's say this is order quantity, then how you can define or how you can describe this particular cube? Anyone? We can say that this is order quantity of what? Components which was placed in, can you tell me what? Which
And
was placed
Jan
in
2015.
2015 Jan. Okay. Now let's say if this thing is showing us the returns quantity, then we can describe it as returns quantities of components in 2015 Jan. Okay, so this is how the cube form of data looks like. And this form of data usually comes from the backend systems which are using, as I said earlier, components like Azure Databricks, and sometimes we can make it using uh, SS, SSRS as well. Okay, SQL Server reporting services. Okay, Hope this is clear now, how the cube form of data looks like, people.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the only difference between live connection and direct query mode. They both are similar apart from the fact that in live connection, the data which will be incoming will be in the form of cubes. Okay. Now, then there is dual mode, composite mode, or hybrid mode. What is meant by this? In dual mode, composite mode, or hybrid mode, some of the data or some of the tables will be coming in import mode, others will be coming in direct query mode, just like what we are using here. Now, if you see here, this table is coming in the import mode, right? This table, again, it is coming in the import mode. However, this table is coming in direct query mode. Okay, so this kind of model, we call it as composite model or dual model or hybrid model. Okay, so these are different storage modes, and this is how we bring the data into Power BI desktop, people. Okay, so yes, any doubt with respect to what was covered today?
No problem. Okay.
Okay, fine. So from next class onwards, we'll start working on the in-house ETL tool of Power BI, that is Power Query Editor. That is, we'll bring the data into Power BI, Power Query Editor, and then we'll start doing the transformations so that we can make the data clean and transformed in a way that we want it to be. Okay, that will start from tomorrow. Fine. Let me, if there are no further questions, then let me stop sharing my screen and let me stop recording.
Okay. So you'll be sending this